Hi, it's me, Dr. Prasad Putila, with a class on UV visible spectroscopy. It's class number 1. Before coming to this class, dear students, please go through my YouTube channel, the playlist. It is given the spectroscopic techniques introduction class. Please watch that video introduction class, then come and watch this video. Then it will be easy for you to understand. So here in this particular class video, I'm covering the basics of UV visible spectroscopy, then some of the theories or laws behind UV visible spectroscopy, mainly Beer's law and Lambert's law, and derivation of some of the mathematical expression, which is very much useful for your competitive exams. Then the instrumentation, schematic representation of the instrument. So this particular slide, it already I explained in my previous video, the basics or introduction to spectroscopy, in which the particular range of 10 to the 14 to 10 to the 16 frequency, the hertz, that we call as the UV and visible spectra. That spectra, those radiations can be used in a spectroscopy known as UV visible spectroscopy, in which the interaction of matter, because we know spectroscopy, it is the interaction of matter with the electromagnetic radiation, which I explained in detail in my previous video. So here the valence electrons of an atom or molecules interact with the UV or visible spectroscopy. They will jump to higher energy level or absorb certain radiation, or they emit certain radiation. So those are considered under UV visible spectroscopy. So here it is actually absorption of the electromagnetic radiation is considered. How much light is absorbed or how much light is transmitted. Based on that, we are analyzing the given sample. So it is also known as electronic spectroscopy because here it involves the excitation of electrons. Mainly the electrons, when we say, it may be the bonded pair of electrons like a sigma bond, which is formed by the mutual overlapping of the atomic orbitals to become molecule, or it may be pi bond, which is the sidewise overlapping of atomic orbitals to become the molecular orbital, or it may be N, that is the lone pair of electron or non-bonding electrons. It will be excited to higher energy levels, that is sigma star or sigma asterisk, or as well as a pi asterisk or pi star. So what are those that I can explain? So if in case of two s orbitals, when it forms a bond, means the outermost orbitals are s and another s, when they combine, it will be becoming a shape which we call as a sigma s. Okay, so that is a sigma s, the formation of sigma s electrons, in which two electrons are shared each other. Then if they are repelling to each other, having higher energy, so sigma bond is formed, means they become stable. If they are repelling each other, that means those electron density, it is presented here, the electron density is moving away from each other, then we call it as sigma star. Sigma star or sigma asterisk is having very higher energy. Similarly, with the p orbitals, when they sidewise overlap, mutually overlap, we'll be getting the sigma bond. It may be p orbital as well as hybridized sp or sp2 or sp3. All those orbitals, when they overlap, we represent the sigma like that, and its corresponding sigma star, in which the repulsion takes place. They are taken away. It creates a nodal plane under. That will explain in molecular orbital theory. A separate concept is there, valence bond theory as well as molecular orbital theory. Here just I am giving only the representation. If this p orbitals overlap sidewise, so 2p, which is represented here, 2p, 1p and 2p, this overlap sidewise. This is constructive overlapping, or they combined each other to become a single molecule. We call it as constructive overlapping. This other one, that is destructive overlapping, it becomes the pi star. They means they are repelling each other. They are having higher energy. The asterisk written or the star which is given, that is they are having higher energy. Or it may be a non-bonded electron. Usually we call it as a lone pair of electrons. Lone pair of electrons there in some certain atoms like nitrogen, oxygen, halogen. They are having lone pair of electrons on its outermost orbital. Those lone pair of electrons are represented as N. So these are the electrons. It may be sigma electron, pi electron, or non-bonded electron. They absorb the UV visible spectroscopy, the UV visible spectra, UV spectra as well as visible spectra. Usually sigma will not, it cannot absorb the visible spectra. Anyhow, that will come in the coming classes. A series of classes I'll be taking on UV visible spectroscopy. This one just I'm giving introduction to UV visible spectroscopy, not going in detail. Okay, so these are all involved. So to represent the energy levels, say sigma bonding, that is represented by the symbol or representation like that. It is having lower energy. So this particular shape can be formed if sp3 overlap. Sp3 means hybridized orbital overlap with an s orbital, or sp2 with an s, or sp with an s. The second set, it can be used to represent sp3 sp3 orbitals overlapping, or sp2 sp2 overlapping, or even sp sp overlapping. The next one, pi bonding. Pi bonding, they are not having that much stability, or they are having higher energy compared to sigma bonding molecular orbit of the sigma bonding energy level. The pi is having little bit higher energy level. Then third one, non-bonding, they are even higher energy level because it is not shared. It is free electron having high energy, free pair of electron having higher energy. Now the anti-bonding, that is even the bonding molecule, it can be represented both ways. This upper ways the electron density, or lower downward electron density. Both way we can represent the non-bonding. The next one, that is the anti-bonding molecular orbiter. They are formed because they are having destructive overlapping. They are repelling each other, having very high energy level. So that is represented there. The next one, that is pi star anti-bonding. Pi star means that is anti-bonding orbiter, or anti-bonding energy level, that is also represented. So this is the general way of representing the energy level from down to upper direction. It is having higher in energy levels. So sigma bonding is having lower energy level. Sigma star anti-bonding. Sigma star means it is anti-bonding. It is having higher energy level. Higher energy level means it is less stable. And sigma lower energy level means they are more stable. Therefore, more stable is sigma bond. Then little bit lesser stability or comparatively is pi. Then non-bonding, that is L. Now coming back to the frequency range, that is 10 to the 14 to 10 to the 16, that only have took separately, and that is represented here. So here represented with the colors red to violet. Then continuation is UV. So the same thing I have written here. So I will be continuing with that. So here it is roughly given as 10 to the 14 to 10 to the 16. So in somewhat accurately, the wavelength, if I represent, it will be 8000 angstrom to 2000 angstrom. That means the red color is having higher wavelength, whereas UV is having lower wavelength. That is clear from the electromagnetic spectrum given for all the different electromagnetic radiations. So I'll rewrite it once again, because I want to reverse this arrangement. I'll take the UV first, then the colors. So we call it as VIBGEO, or different colors: violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Therefore, you can say that wavelength is in the increasing order from UV to the red side of the spectrum, that is 2000 angstrom to 8000 angstrom. Now, unit conversion. It can be written as 2000 angstrom can be written as 200 millimicron, or 8000 angstrom can be written as 800 millimicron. Or in terms of nanometer, the nanometer scale that is mainly used to write the spectrum, to draw the spectrum. Mainly we come with the nanometer scale. Therefore, it is 200 nanometer to 800 nanometer. That means 1 nanometer is equal to 1 millimicron. So that is the conversion, unit conversion. So when we record the amount of light which is absorbed by sample, so here it is an absorption spectroscopy. That means light is absorbed, or even some light is transmitted. The instrument will record how much light is transmitted with reference to a reference light, the same light which is passed. Then how much light is transmitted, based on that absorbance is measured, and that is taken for the giving the spectrum, and by looking into the spectrum we'll analyze the sample. That is a particular spectrum we call it as absorption spectrum, in which we plot with the absorbance on y-axis and the wavelength in x-axis. So that is 200 to 800 nanometer generally we take. below 200 nanometer or above 800 nanometer, it will be away from the so-called UV visible spectrophotometry. Anyhow, some values, so some wavelength which is less than 200 nanometer also comes under UV, that we call as far UV region, or that is below 200 nanometer. But it is not used mainly it is not useful for us, because at that particular wavelength range, even the oxygen present in the atmosphere or near the sample, a nitrogen gas present in near the sample, because we know atmosphere contains these three gases, they also will absorb the UV radiation of the far UV region, and it will interfere our result. As well as to avoid that, to separate the oxygen and nitrogen from the environment, means we have to create vacuum there. That means vacuum instruments are required, that they are costly, difficult to handle, address. It is very difficult to get the results. Therefore, we will go for a spectral range of 200 nanometer to 800 nanometer only. Okay, I'm not giving the spectra, how the appearance of spectra. You know, almost you might have seen how UV spectroscopy appears. So here the spectra will come based on the absorption of the light from 200 nanometer to 800 nanometer. The sample, how much it absorbs, the different bonds, the pi bonds, or the bonded non-bonding electrons, when they absorb the light, jump to higher energy level, means they are absorbing. So based on that different bonds, we can analyze different functional group also. We can analyze a little bit, or we can calculate the concentration of the sample. A particular sample will, a particular chemical compound will absorb a particular wavelength of light. So based on that, we can do the analysis. So ultraviolet spectrum, when we say, already we seen that it has got a far ultraviolet region, which is also known as vacuum UV region, that is from 10 nanometer to up to 200 nanometer it extends. Then comes our the pure UV, what we call, or near ultraviolet or quartz ultraviolet region, that is extend up to 380 nanometer. Then the visible spectrum or visible region 780 nanometer. So this is actually the ultraviolet and visible spectrum, what we call. From that, the far UV region, which is 10 nanometer to 200 nanometer, it is actually a blessing. This particular region, it is a blessing to the spectroscopist, because already explained that this particular UV region can be absorbed by the oxygen and nitrogen, and mainly the ozone. Okay, ozone layer, we know our atmosphere has got an ozone layer. So these ultraviolet radiations which are coming from the sunlight, mainly, they are very hazardous. That can be avoided, because it is getting avoided because of the presence of oxygen, nitrogen, or even the mainly the ozone present in the atmosphere, which absorb those UV radiation than striking the earth surface. In case of organic molecules, if you consider that they are very high energy, that means as the wavelength increases, the frequency increases. Frequency increases means the energy increases. They are having higher energy. The far UV regions are having higher energy than that of the near or quartz ultraviolet region. Therefore, that high energy even makes the separation of electrons present in the sigma bond. Sigma bond, how the sigma bond is formed, that already you know, that is a sidewise overlapping. So those energy separation from sigma to sigma star, a very high energy difference, already I represented in my previous slide, in this particular video only. So that energy separation also possible if the UV region is 120 to 200 nanometer. That means any sample in that particular region will give sigma to sigma star transition or absorption will be there, and we may get confused with, because almost all organic molecules are having the sigma bond. Uh, we may have to identify some of the pi bonds present in that, or the lone pair of electron absorbing the light. That is easy for us to analyze. Whereas if all the sigma bonds starts to absorb the UV radiation, then we may get confused, or we get a mixed spectra, which will make an analyst to distinguish between the particular type of electrons present, that is pi or a lone pair of electron present in that. Therefore, we are not using this particular range in our UV visible spectrophotometry analysis. 10 to nanometer to 200 nanometer is not used. Above 200 nanometer only we are using it. in which if you use only 200 nanometer to 380 nanometer, we are not using visible region, means then we call it as pure ultraviolet spectrum or ultraviolet region, which is near ultraviolet, or we call it as quartz ultraviolet. The word quartz ultraviolet means here if you want to analyze a sample holder that we prepare use for that, it should be made up of quartz, and the light source, it should be hydrogen or deuterium discharge tube, which can give this light intensity of light of this particular wavelength from 200 nanometer to 380 nanometer. And the sample holder, or these what we call as cuvette, the sample holder in UV spectroscope, or what we call it as a cuvette. Cuvette should be made up of a quartz, a particular glass material known as quartz. We cannot use normal glass material that we use, that can be used only in visible region. The normal glass sample holder, if you use, that also will absorb the UV radiation, and it will interfere with our samples radiation absorbance. The excitation of electrons from p and d orbitals can be studied by using this particular range. Even the pi orbitals, and especially in pi orbital, when we say, it should be having conjugation system, pi conjugation system, that is alternate single and double bond system, we call it as conjugation. Alternate single and double bond, or alternate single and triple bond, or alternate single and conjugation with lone pair of electrons. All those systems can be analyzed by using this particular. Therefore, it is very readily accessible information we are getting, and it is an informative spectra. It is for us to analyze a sample. But this sample what we are taking, they are not having color. When they are having color, it comes to the visible region. That means in visible spectroscopy, mainly we studied about the colorimetry. Colorimetry experiment already I explained, and it is there in my YouTube channel, My Intuition. You can go through that one also, how the visible region spectroscopy, that is we call it as colorimetry, will work. Colorimetry is also a very important analyzing technique. All the colored compound, color should be stable. If the color is stable, the organic molecule color is stable, and there is no turbidity, or even some chemical reaction, after the reaction we are getting stable color, then all those can be analyzed by using visible region spectroscopy. Here we need to use a tungsten filament, which will give the different visible region color, that is the VGOR. Now the absorption laws, mainly the Beer's law and Lambert's law. So I said that in visible spectrophotometry, we use a sample holder. The sample holder, we call it as a cuvette. So this is a cuvette which containing the sample. So here I'm representing with the colored one. Even though colorless solutions can also be studied with UV visible spectrophotometry, because the colorless solution also can absorb UV radiation if they are having enough pi conjugation is there. Okay, so here cuvette, and the cuvette I represented here with a colored line. That means the cuvette, it is not clean. This portion, it is not clean. That means if a light comes on inside or hit on the surface, wherever the incident light hits the surface which is not clean, or if the surface is rough, the glass surface only, the cuvette surface, if it is rough, any scratches are there, or if it is not clean, or even if it contains the solvent molecule or water molecule, then some of the light may get reflected. So that is should not happen, because we need all the incident light to pass through the solution, and we need to study how much light is absorbed or how much light is transmitting. Therefore, we need to avoid this reflectance actually, but reflectance possibilities are there that I am represented here. Some light will be absorbed inside the solution. It will absorb that particular light. Okay, you have no connection with the yellow color and whatever the red color, orange color which is given here. There is no connection, just giving the representing here. Actually, we have to use a counter color. VGOR spectrum in a wheel. There is a color wheel that you have to study, in which we will come to know that which particular color will be absorbed by a colored species. Okay, it is not the same color which is getting absorbed. It appears as yellow color because this particular solution, it reflects only yellow color. So that I can explain now. Okay, so here I can say here the color has got no connection with the given incident color. Just I'm representing the schematically representing the absorbed light as well as the transmitted. So here some light is getting transmitted. If you avoid this particular reflection, if the glass surface or cuvette surface is clean, that means that some certain amount of photons. So here these are the photons. Okay, light we call it as a package of energy, or we call it as photon. A particular number of photons will be absorbed and the remaining will be transmitted. Okay, that means we can say that the incident number of photons P so equal to the number of photons which are absorbed plus the number of photons which are transmitted. That means from this, if you avoid the reflectance, if you can calculate how much transmitted light, if you can measure how much is the amount of light or photons transmitted through that, then we can say how much is absorbed. Okay, or if we can calculate or measure how much is absorbed, then we can calculate, we can tell how much is transmitted, because we know how much is the incident light, because the source of light, we know what is the how much photons it can give. Or by using the same radiation without passing through this sample, if it is directly passed and it is measured, then we kept this sample here, then allowed the photons to pass through that, then measuring how much is the transmitted light coming out from that. From that also we can do the analysis. You know, that is a simple logic on that. I'm not confusing you with giving more explanation on that. Now the laws which we call as, they are the Beer's law as well as Lambert's law, which is connected to the light absorption or light transmittance. If you take the first one, that is Beer's law, which is having a relation with the intensity of light which is incident as well as the concentration of solution. And there are many statements in different textbooks. We can find different statements. Statements, it's not like a definition. Definition should be the same, whatever reference textbooks we refer. But statements can be different type of statements. All are having same meaning. Therefore, all the statements I'm giving, whatever I come across, that I'm giving here, all are having same meaning. Almost three statements I collected based on Beer's law. First statement says that when a beam of monochromatic radiation, beam means it is a ray of monochromatic, having only one particular wavelength. So if you consider VIBGYOR, in which only if I consider the blue separately, blue color separately, then I can say that blue color is a monochromatic light. Only particular wavelength is there in blue, and all other VIBG except blue, the remaining all colors, they are having different wavelength. Therefore, monochromatic radiation means it is having a single wavelength, or in terms of color, we can say a single particular color radiation is there. Or if in case of UV, we cannot have the color, or there we have to imagine that it is a different, a particular constant wavelength radiation is used, not the mixture of radiation. We are not using the electromagnetic spectrum as such. A single wavelength light radiation is used, and it is passed through a solution of an absorbing substance. That means this the medium or the substance or the chemical and sample that you want to analyze, it is capable to absorb. Then the rate of decrease of intensity of radiation with the thickness of the absorbing solution. That is the rate of decreasing intensity, means if it, when it passes through the solution, initially some light will be absorbed, then further the remaining incident light will pass through the remaining part of the solution, and more intensity of light is getting absorbed. That means the rate of decrease is slowly it is getting decreased. It is not that at beginning on the cuvette one side whatever the light absorbed, and suddenly we calculate the other side. No, in the solution, if you consider it as different layers, if you cut it into different layers, then we can say that at each layer the light will be absorbed, or the photons will be absorbed. It is not easy, say better way to say that light is absorbed, the photons are absorbed. So the rate of decrease of intensity of radiation with the thickness, a given constant thickness, a given constant path length. Based on that, that means here thickness is not varying, thickness of the solution or the dimension of the cuvette or dimension of the sample folder, we are not varying, it is kept constant. Then it will be proportional to the rate of decrement of intensity of radiation with thickness of the absorbing solution. It is proportional to the intensity of incident radiation as well as the concentration of the solution. That means we are connecting intensity of light and concentration. As the concentration increases, the intensity of light is getting decreased. The intensity of transmitted light is getting decreased. Or I can say that as concentration increases, more and more light will be color, more and more photons will be absorbed. Second statement, uh, same Beer's law only. A different way of representing that concept is that the fraction of incident light absorbed, it is proportional to the number of absorbing molecules in the light path. That means how much the fraction of incident light, how much we can say that incident light we cut into many fractions. Then the fraction of light is absorbed, it is proportional to the number of absorbing molecules. Number of absorbing molecules, you can say that it is the concentration only. Number of absorbing molecules in the light path and will increase with increasing concentration. Okay, so it is the same meaning that as intensity, as the concentration increases, more and more light will be getting, or more and more photons are getting absorbed. Statement 3, this which I feel more convenient because it has got this what I used while I was a student. I used this. I studied in this manner. That when a ray of monochromatic light passes through a light absorbing media, the intensity of transmitted light decreases exponentially as the concentration increases arithmetically. Okay, the exponentially and arithmetically term, even the initially when I was a student, I find it difficult, but that exponentially, arithmetically, I used to recall easily. Therefore, it was easy for me to understand the concept. That time it was not easy for me to understand the concept. It was easy to by heart the Beer's law. Okay, so I'll explain what it is that exponentially and arithmetically. So when a ray of monochromatic light passes through a light absorbing media, monochromatic light I already explained what it is, passes through a light absorbing media, that is the sample or our chemical substance which can absorb the light. Then the intensity of transmitted light decreases exponentially. When it passes through the media, the transmitted light, that means if I consider distance of the or thickness of the cuvette or thickness of the sample or path length, all are same. If it is some 3 centimeter, that means it has to pass through 1 centimeter, another 1 centimeter, another 1 centimeter. That is the thickness, it is increasing arithmetically. And then the intensity of transmitted light is decreasing exponentially. As the thickness increases, the intensity of transmitted light is decreasing. Okay, means as the thickness, as not thickness, as through the medium it passes, because of the presence of a highly concentrated solution or low concentrated solution, the intensity of transmitted light decreases exponentially as the concentration increases arithmetically. Okay, anyhow, I'll explain with the in detail with the derivation and all. That time it will be more clear. If I give the explain here with only the letters, it will be confusing again, because even I am getting confused to explain that. Okay, so the Beer's law states that when a ray of monochromatic light, and this is Lambert's law, Beer's law states that when a ray of monochromatic light passes through a light absorbing media, the intensity of transmitted light decreases exponentially as the concentration of the solution increases arithmetically. Okay, now Lambert's law states that when a beam of monochromatic radiation passes through a homogeneous absorbing medium. Okay, monochromatic light already it is clear. Homogeneous means it is not having any phase separation. It is homogeneous, or there is not turbidity in that. The solution, it is homogeneous, inseparable form. If any phase separation is there, then the different phases will absorb different wavelength. Therefore, it is also clear to explain that EBD should be a homogeneous absorbing media. Then the rate of decrease of intensity of radiation with thickness of absorbing media, it is proportional to intensity of the incident light. That means it connects the intensity of light to the that of a thickness of solution or path length. Second statement, the fraction of monochromatic light absorbed by homogeneous media is independent of intensity of incident light, and each successive unit layer absorbs an equal fraction of light incident on it. So here what I explained, that one, the successive layers, you have to consider the sample holder containing a sample as different layers, different parallel layers. Then each layer is absorbing. So as the layer moves on, that means the thickness is increasing. Statement 3, that is when a ray of monochromatic light passes through a light absorbing media, the intensity of transit light decreases exponentially as the thickness of medium increases arithmetically. Now, combining Beer's law as well as Lambert's law, Beer's law says that the absorbance is directly proportional to concentration. Here, C represents concentration. Lambert's law says that absorbance is directly proportional to thickness or path length. And here, this is a molar absorptivity, or the extinction coefficient, constant value, which makes the proportionality to equality. That means A is directly proportional to C as well as T, or A is equal to epsilon Ct. So how we got this? So this is what we study as such whenever reversible spectrophotometry comes, we use this particular expression. How we got that expression, that I can explain here. So again, I'm taking this representation, schematic representation. Here you can say that this distance from here to here, that is the thickness of the solution or thickness of the medium, or we can say that much is the distance for the light photon to travel, or the length or the path length. Okay, I can call it as a path length. So thickness and path length both are same, and it has nothing to do with the concentration. Concentration is different. We know concentration is number of solute present in the given solvent. That means as number of solute concentration increases, we can say that it is more and more concentrated. If it is a colored solution, lower concentrated color solution having lighter color, and as the concentration increases, it will become darker color. Okay, that it is easy to understand what is concentration in a better way. So here C represents concentration. I didn't represent a different concentrated solution, only same concentration here. If I have to represent, that means I have to show 3-4 cuvette sample like that with a lighter yellow color, in darker yellow color, even darker yellow color, even more darker yellow color. Then we can say that concentration of the solution is increasing. Okay, and the distance between this solution from the starting side of the phase where the light inside or the photons are coming to the other side, that distance we can say as the path length, in which if I consider the distance as x, initially it is 0 and it becomes t. T means thickness. The distance become t means it is a thickness. T represents thickness. Therefore, from here to here, that is thickness or path length. Now the light which is falling on this cuvette or the sample, we can say that it is of the same monochromatic light. Already you explained that it is a monochromatic light. That means the wavelength it is fixed, or frequency it is fixed, or energy is fixed. Now we are only counting how many number of photons are falling on that. Whether it is so we cannot count it as such, but here I'm representing that 1 2 3 4 5 photons are falling on that. Okay, so just only to understand that, so don't take it as such meaning. Then we can say that the number of photons falling on this particular area, a unit area, it may be in meter square or centimeter square, in a given second, that will be the intensity. Okay, so intensity has nothing to do with the energy. How many number of photons, or how much we are getting of the same monochromatic light, how much you are giving, that is known as the intensity of incident rays. How much incident rays are coming near to this, how much photons are coming to this sample, that we call as the intensity of incident rays, which is represented as I0. And some of the rays it passes through that one, then I should represent as the thickness of that ray, it decreases. That means that intensity is decreasing. But because some of the light is getting absorbed by this media, therefore the number of photons coming out from this sample holder or from the solution it is the intensity. Therefore, the intensity of transmitted rays that is represented as I. That means the incident intensity of ray is I0, and after the absorption, whatever remaining is the I. Okay, now here in which if I make this distance as different fractions, so from here to here it is t, the length is t. If I take it as a small x, so initially x was 0 and here it becomes a x equal to t. That means this a small portion, that means in mass we put as a differentiating, we are dividing it into different portions, or we are considering it as different layers. Okay, so here this much till whatever represented here, this is one layer, and a second layer, a third layer, like that. Different layers we are considering, because in the statement that also included different layers absorbed. Therefore, I'm considering as different layer. Therefore, this particular distance that to calculate that particular distance here, this particular distance, if I calculate, I have to differentiate this. Then we have to use mass dx. That is dx will be taking. That is a portion. Delta x, so also we can call it as so that particular is the dx, and the amount of incident ray present in that, or changes in incident ray can be represented as di. Okay, so dx it is written here, so this is di. So we know that as it passes through the medium, some of the light and intensity it is getting absorbed, or this change in intensity or the difference in intensity or di value, it will be a negative value always. Therefore, I represent it as a negative di. Now I want this dx and di for continuing my derivation to explain that one. Therefore, dx and di only I am taking. Okay, so we can say that the di by dx, the value of d minus di minus represents that it is decreasing. On dx, it will be proportional to the concentration of the solution as well as the incident, the intensity of light which is passing through that, or transmitted intensity. Therefore, I can say that it is proportional to the concentration as well as the intensity of light. If you vary the intensity of light, then it will vary. If you vary the concentration, then also that particular value will vary. That is the meaning. That means in this expression, when we calculate minus di by dx, that will be varying, directly varying, or it is directly proportional to the concentration as well as the intensity. Okay, now we start deriving the expression from this particular equation. On rewriting, the negative side I want to give to right side, as well as this proportionality I want to make equality. Therefore, I use a constant value, and constant value I have to give negative value because I took negative from this side. Therefore, it will be equal to, because with the proportionality we cannot derive anything, we have to connect it to equality, then only it is easy to derive. Therefore, di by dx equal to minus y. Minus y is a constant. Y is the constant. Y is a constant value, and to that the negative symbol is attached. Therefore, it becomes minus y, c as well as I. Now I want to rearrange it. The I want to put under di, and x dx will go to the right hand side. Therefore, di by I will be equal to minus y into c into dx. Now we can integrate it. So this is only a small portion of that mm, sample medium it is representing. A small layer of that medium is representing. We need till the end, that is x equal to 0 to x equal to t we need. That means we need to integrate it. Okay, so differentiation and integration, that having applications in many field science, chemistry as well as physics. Therefore, the integration concept we are using here. So integration I0 to I on di by I will be equal to here minus y. It is a constant. If you don't want to integrate it, c is a constant. Already it is a constant, so no need of integrating it. Only the one which is variable, only we can integrate. So minus y c on integration with x equal to 0 to x equal to t of dx. That will be equal to natural logarithm of I. So that is the integration of di by I. And we have the values from I0 to I. Therefore, it is from I0 to I. It will be equal to minus y is a constant, c is a constant. Integration of dx, that is x, which is from 0 to t. Okay, the value of x changes from 0 to t. Now on expanding it, I will rewrite it because there is not much space to write. Therefore, I rearranged it. Therefore, natural logarithm of I on I0 to I equal to minus 5 c and x on 0 to t. Now rearranging it or expanding it, that is natural logarithm of I minus natural logarithm of I0. That means we are replacing, substituting I with I as well as I with I0. Therefore, it becomes natural logarithm of I minus natural logarithm of I naught equal to minus y into c into or multiplied by, it will be t, x will become t minus x equal to 0. That means t minus 0. Okay, so now rearranging it again. Okay, we know log a minus log b is log a by b. That is natural logarithm of I by I0 be equal to minus y into c into t. So t minus 0 is t only. Now further continuation, natural logarithm, that is logarithm to the base e, can be converted into logarithm to the base 10 by multiplying by 2.303. Therefore, 2.303 log I by I0 equal to minus y into c into t. Now, doing the rearrangement in the sense I'm taking this negative sign to the left hand side. When we take negative to left hand side, we can interchange this numerator and denominator. Okay, that is easy method. That is again maths only. You can check, you can clarify with any professor who is in maths. So you can say that this one, on writing I0 by I, that means this negative symbol we took to the left hand side, which is equal to y into c into t. Okay, therefore rearranging again, y I want to calculate the constant value, I want to calculate y is equal to the remaining all have to take to the right hand side, 2.303 divided by c into t into log I0 by I. Now again there is no space, I have to rewrite it. So y is equal to 2.303 by c into t into log I0 by I. Now the 2.303 is again another constant, which is not a variable. I want to take it to the left hand side. Then I want to make it another constant. So y by 2.303 is equal to 1 upon c and t in the log I0 by I. Now y by 2.303, that constant, it can be rewritten as absolute. That is nothing but this value, this constant we call it as the extension coefficient, which is equal to 1 by ct into log I0 by I. Now rearranging it, epsilon ct, because we already have a is equal to epsilon ct. So epsilon ct I took to the left hand side. Epsilon ct is equal to log I0 by I. That means log I0 by I, it is the absorbance A. Or you can write as, okay, epsilon ct. Okay, epsilon is missing here. So epsilon ct is equal to A. Epsilon is missing there. I have to write it. Otherwise, it will be wrong. It's not C, epsilon we need to. So I can take it from insert option, symbol, where it is going. Wait. Okay, so this one I can take from a symbol. Epsilon is there. Insert close. Okay, so we can say that epsilon ct, I put it. So we need to rearrange all. Okay, so we got epsilon, a bigger epsilon we got. Okay, so it is an extension coefficient. A is absorbance. Continuation means in competitive exams, many different numerical problems will be asked. So I'm continuing from that. From epsilon ct, we already got the absorbance of epsilon ct. Now we take the transmittance. Transmittance we calculate. It is similar to that of absorbance. Therefore, transmittance also we have to consider. Transmittance is nothing but the intensity of transmitted light divided by intensity of incident light. That will be the transmittance. How much light is transmitted compared to the incident light. Okay, now you take logarithm on both sides. Log t is equal to log of I by I0. Log t is equal to minus, I'm rearranging it. I by I0, I want to write I0 by I because log I0 by I is A. Okay, therefore log minus log I0 by I, which is log t is equal to minus of absorbance. Therefore, the relation between absorbance and transmittance is minus log t is equal to absorbance, or log t is equal to minus of absorbance. Now again, in that t is equal to 10 to the power of minus a, because here it is or logarithm to the base 10. Therefore, we can say that t will be 10 to the power of minus a, and a is nothing but epsilon ct. Therefore, t is equal to 10 to the power minus epsilon ct. Now further, I'll start from a t is equal to I by I0 only. T is equal, because I want to calculate the percentage transmittance. That's also one of the term which is used. How much percentage transmittance happened? Therefore, percentage transmittance, it is nothing but multiplied by 100. Okay, I by I0 into 100. That will get the percentage. Now, in which I by I0, if I take, it will be percentage transmittance divided by 100. Now I'll keep it there, and I'll continue with a is equal to log I0 by I, rearranging it, minus log I by I0. That is just rearranged the numerator and denominator. Now here I by I0 we have, that is percentage transmittance by 100. Therefore, it is A is equal to minus log of a percentage transmittance by 100. That means a is equal to minus log of expanding it, the negative symbol it is taken outside, then log a by b, that is log percentage transmittance minus log 100. We know log 100, that value is 2. Therefore, a is equal to minus of log percent transmittance minus 2. Rearranging it, minus and minus, it becomes plus 2. That means 2 minus log percentage t. Therefore, a is equal to 2 minus log percentage t. Therefore, this expression can also be used for doing some numerical problems based on UV visible spectroscopy, where if you are given the value of percentage transmittance, if it is given, then how much is the absorbance? Absorbance is equal to 2 minus log of percentage transmittance. That's about the Beers-Lambert's law and its numerical means expressions, derivation of expressions. All these expressions one by one you should note down. If you are not you take a book, a pen, and write all these expressions one by one. It is very useful for your higher studies, even to meet the competitive exams. There are so many questions. They may not ask what is Beers law, what is Lambert's law. They will be giving some values, and you have to calculate the absorbance or transmittance based on that. Therefore, you should be able to, if you know this expression, it is very easy, just simple substitution and doing the mathematical calculation, you will get the answer. Therefore, scoring is easy. Then by hearting the expressions, you should know how it got derived. Then it is easy to recall or remember. Now the last portion of this particular video, that is instrumentation. Before I start, it's my request for you or my students or others, those who are watching my video, please do subscribe my YouTube channel, My Intuition, because a lot of effort we took to prepare these slides and to explain that. Even though it may not be entertaining as such, because we want to watch YouTube videos which are entertaining, then we subscribe it. But any videos, class videos, which is made you to understand the concept, you should support not only my YouTube channel, any YouTube channel in which the theory concept or the study materials are given, because it is something which is important for us as well as the juniors or the coming generation. So you should pass on, should subscribe the YouTube channel. You should like the videos. That only the way you are expressing your gratitude to us or our way of presenting, that only we are our expectation. And you should share the information to all others, those who want to study or those who are in this particular field. Therefore, please do that. Now, instrumentation. In instrumentation, we need a source of light. The source of light, I said that since it is UV visible spectrophotometry, the source of light for visible spectrum, we can use tungsten filament, or UV region, UV light if you want to get, UV spectrum if you want to get, we need to have hydrogen and deuterium discharge. In modern UV visible spectrophotometry, both these filaments, both the light source should be available, and we can control them in that instrument. So this light rays, we know light rays can pass in all 3 dimensions. Only 2 dimensions represented here. The source of light, it will be going to our direction. We need to concentrate by using a slit, and that even further concentrated by using a lens. The lens will not change the nature of the light, only it will concentrate further. It will increase the intensity, because we know more intensity of light it is used, better result will be obtained. Therefore, increasing the intensity, we can use the lens. And it is then we need to have a grating. A grating means it is a, even we can use a mirror also, but it should have a prisms. So grating is containing a larger number of prisms attached in a particular manner, so that this wavelength, this light, which is a visible light or UV light, as such, it is not having color, or it is a mixture of all the wavelength, all wavelength mixed together. Therefore, it appears as a white light to us. We need to separate it into different wavelength, because the different samples absorb light in different wavelength. Therefore, grating it is used to separate this light into different wavelength radiations. So here represented with the color VGR, even ultraviolet is not having color. Therefore, this grating will separate the concentrated light source, light rays into different wavelength. Then we need to have a monochromator to convert the light to a particular wavelength based on the sample that we use, based on the wavelength of light that the sample is absorbing. By trial and error method, we can find out which particular wavelength our sample is absorbing. Therefore, we need to have only that particular wavelength light. Therefore, that can be obtained by using a monochromator. Monochromator, by adjusting the monochromator, we can have a particular wavelength light. So here it is represented with the color to understand. From the VGO, only the yellow color it is separated. Even if you want UV rays will not having color. That also can be separated by using a monochromator. So we'll be getting a monochromatic light. Okay. So this monochromatic light, then it is passed through a chopper which splits the incident, this monochromatic light into 2 different rays, or 2 different set of rays, because we need to identify the intensity of this light. Okay, as well as we want to pass it through a sample. Therefore, it is made to chop. Chop means cut into pieces. Okay, therefore it is chopped. The light is chopped to different 2 lines, or 2 different set of same light, and using mirrors, it is allowed to fall on the sample as well as a reference. Okay, it is the same light intensity. We just chopped here the same intensity of light. It passes through the sample, as well as same intensity of light passes through a reference. So usually reference, we keep a blank cuvette can be kept, or you can use the air as such, because there is nothing to be absorbed. It should be passed through that. Or we can use the solvent which is used to prepare the sample. Okay, so most of the game in research purposes, we use the solvent. Other than the material, other than the component which gives color, remaining all will be present in the reference. Okay, so we can have that particular ray as a reference. Then we can check how much the sample absorbed in that light. Okay, so further it absorbed the light. Okay, so here I represent with lighter color, because some of the light it got absorbed. Okay, so again, don't go with the color of the sample and the color of the ray. I'm not given the contrasting color here. Okay, same color is there. That is actually practically it is not perfect. Only to understand the concept, I represented like this. Okay, so you can say that some light intensity it is absorbed, the remaining passes through and goes to the detector, whereas in reference, the entire beam as such it passes. Therefore, with the reference to this light, we can find out how much is the transmitted light. The detector will analyze that, and we can then analyze that how much is light absorbed. Based on the absorption of light, or based on the transmission of light, we can say that the sample, we can analyze the sample. So this is the instrumentation of UV visible spectroscopy. So once again, I request all of you, those who are watching my video, to do subscribe my YouTube channel, My Intuition. Like all the videos, press the like button. Then only we come to that you like the video at least. then share to maximum. Thank you very much for watching my videos. And once again, thank you very much for watching my video.